Our story is the story of two guys who start at the bottom and with a lot of hard work continue along the bottom and finally end up at the bottom.
Oh, yeah, that's an intriguing scenario.
Yeah, it's a rags to rags story.
Yeah, imagine it. Yeah, did you see the one about the guys who started at the bottom, stayed at the bottom, and at the end they were still at the bottom?
Yes, that's our life.
In Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA, and home to the Commodores of Vanderbilt, who hope today they will hit all of the right notes. Little gets the blood boiling, quite like a rivalry game. Barbs, shots, trash talk, things that go on throughout the week will now all be settled on this field. They'll come out on this drive and let it rip. Oh, he's going to go up top. Pulls it in on the right. He's loose. Touchdown, Commodores!
Welcome back into the Door Report, episode 274 on a, I don't know if it's lovely. It's looking like there's rain outside.
It is about to rain, coming from the north.
But a decently lovely Wednesday, July 17th, 2024. I am Will Byrum, joined as always by my co-host, Trevor Hulan, a.k.a. Hack Squat Jim Duggan. If you've been watching on YouTube, me and Trevor have moved.
Finally.
New studio, same TDR.
Dude, gang back in the stew.
I don't like how you're sitting right now. If you're
This is awesome. I love this dynamic on camera, to be quite honest.
If you're an audio listener, Trevor is sitting like a foot and a half higher than me. So usually I turn over and look at you when I'm making points, and now I'm just staring at your tits. So it's not great. But we've been on. Oh, wait. First, here at the Door Report, we are presented by 615 Collectibles. If you're into sports cards or sports memorabilia, check out 615 Collectibles on eBay. Shipping is always fast and free. Trevor, we have not recorded for 3 weeks.
It's been a minute.
Our last episode, I think we recorded on June 26th, so that released on June 27th. We have switched over the summer to recording every 2 weeks, but recently we took 3 weeks off. That was because me and Trevor moved. The slumlord apartment that the heat broke, that we had water pouring through our ceilings, terrible neighbors, raccoon problem, or skunk problem.
And raccoon problems, and possum problems. Doors were falling off the hinges.
We are out of there. Big high five up top.
Dude.
We've officially moved. We are still in the process of getting unpacked and getting everything set up. That is why we are sitting directly in front of a completely blank white wall right now.
We do have some stuff over here. Put the mic in front of my mouth so the people can hear me. On the ground, we have our Dansby Swanson plaque with turf from Hawkins Field used from the 2012 to 2019 season. What else do we have over here, Will Byrum? We've got probably my favorite thing I own, honestly. My favorite thing I own. I got this off eBay, made by Sam Payne, 1988. It's a photo of Mr. C blowing up Smokey with a cannonball.
Going to kill a dog.
Oh,
Mr.
dude.
C.
Screw that dog.
Classic.
All dogs go to heaven except for Smokey.
This is supposed to be a relatively quick episode because me and Trevor are still trying to get everything set up. Our bodies, mentally, physically, we are exhausted.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
I have a bruise on my stomach right in the middle. I would hold up, but I don't want to show my love handles live on camera. But I have a bruise just on my stomach.
It was a bad week. We've had a lot of bad weekends as Vanderbilt fans. This might have been the worst weekend of my life.
Me and Trevor did not hire movers, of course.
Bad idea.
We're poor. And we're also 27. We're like, how hard can it be to move? I've moved like 8 times in the last 8 years.
I've moved a couple times as well.
This was the worst move I've ever experienced in my entire life. We will get into why that is after the intro here, and maybe after you adjust your seating setup over here.
Oh, it's as low as it can go now.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So we'll hit on the move, why it sucked so bad. Also,
do we give a home tour for TDR? We just carry the laptop around room by room.
Once we get it set up. Right now, no. Maybe after the setup. It has been 3 weeks, but this might be a quick episode. The biggest news, national news, made waves across the country this weekend. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. College Football 25 has been released. There was also some little political thing that happened.
Yeah.
we don't get too political in here. Some little political
Somebody
thing that
got
happened.
shot.
Yeah, Trump dog. Took it like a champ. We will hit on that in segment 1. We also have just briefly, very briefly, some baseball news to cover.
Unfortunately.
Very briefly. The MLB draft has happened. We also had SEC Media Days. Clark Lee, Langston Patterson, CJ Taylor, Gunnar Hansen all attended SEC Media Day. We will touch on that. And then we will give a little recap about college football 25.
Yeah.
We're going to go through not a full deep dive, but we're going to go through the Vanderbilt roster, how guys are rated, what the gameplay is like, and our experiences so far with college football 25. So we have all that coming up and much more. But before we get into segment 1 and all of that, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Door Report. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. And while you're at it, give our podcast 5 stars and a review on iTunes. It's now time for segment 1.
Welcome to the fucking show.
It's probably gonna sin again.
Welcome back into segment 1 of episode 274 of The Door Report. We mentioned it's going to be a quick episode. I'm kind of starting to doubt that is going to be the case, but we're going to try to keep it around 45, 50 minutes or so. First off, over the weekend, I joked about it, but huge political news. Donald Trump, attempted assassination.
Yeah.
My timeline is literally on Twitter right now. It is 99% memes about the Trump assassination combined with memes about college football 25. That is my entire timeline. There's not a lot of positives associated with the assassination attempt. Not trying to say that at all. If there is one positive, it got the damn Hawk Tua girl off. It cleansed my timeline. Cleansed my timeline of the Hawk Tua girl. I cannot. Maybe I'm getting old. Maybe that's what it is. There has not been one of those viral memes that I've genuinely hated as much as that. It wasn't that funny to begin with.
And like weirdos
like,
ran that into the ground. Like the weirdest people of society like ran that meme into the dirt. Like shout out to one of my homies. I'm not gonna say his name on pod. But literally for probably about a month and a half, every day I got 4 Hawk Tua memes in my Instagram inbox, and I was just like, dude, make it stop. Like it's not. This is not funny.
It wasn't that funny to begin with. The first time I saw it, little chuckle, really didn't think about it that much. I was like, ha ha ha, that'll be viral for a day or two, and then we'll move on to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. It wouldn't stop. It was a month after. And it was still half of the tweets on my timeline were a reference to Hawk Tua. So thank you. College football 25. I don't want to say thank you about the other thing, but thank God my Twitter timeline has been
Trump took one for the team.
Quote unquote cleansed. Still a lot of toxicity going on in the Twitter timeline, but it's been cleansed slightly.
Did you see Trump yesterday at the RNC with that big pad on his ear? Somebody said Donald Trump has a 30 milligram Zen taped to the side of his head.
I saw that, and then I saw another picture on Twitter that was when you order a pillow from Temu. That was that. So Trump, thank God he turned. My laptop is restarting.
Dude, it's the TDR experience, dude. New studio, same TDR, like you said,
Why is my laptop restarting? I declined all of the restarts. So we're going to put a quick pause here, and we will be right back once my laptop finishes restarting, because I've got to get into the baseball news that I have a bunch of notes on from the MLB draft, at least where guys were drafted.
Dude, we don't even have to talk about baseball. We can just cut right through it and say that baseball's dead. Tim Corbin needs to retire. If you want to read about baseball, go to Arya Gerson.
All right. We will be right back.
Пуляевская. А как и без твоих трусиков такой же пустой, как и эта банка, по-любому.
All right, Trevor. We're back. The laptop is restarted. Google Docs is reloaded. Baseball. Very quickly. If you want real baseball coverage, like Trevor said, check out Arya Gerson. It's all she fucking talks about still is baseball.
Dude, I hate her so much.
Though
I'm just going to be honest, I hate her.
That's
dude.
strong. Even though football is coming up like 45 days away. Barely any coverage associated, if any, associated with football from Arya. But that's a story for another day. Let's run through some baseball news really quick. I don't have all the commits written down. The only commit or roster information that I've written down is the biggest news that I've had. Have we recorded since Zirwa, the pitcher from Michigan State?
Yes, yes.
That happened.
Yes, yeah, we ran over him. Yes, you said that name, and I was like,
"That's how you pronounce it, right?"
I was like, "Is that like some computer program that like I missed? That was generational."
Okay,
sounds like a printer almost.
So only roster news. They've had a couple other commits from high schoolers. I don't care at this point about that because who knows who's going to be here. It's all about the transfer portal, all about retaining guys at this point. Shortstop Jonathan Vasty is returning. One last ride.
Nasty Vasty.
Shortstop last year hit .299, led the team with 18 doubles, tied for first on the team with a slugging percentage of .545. Trevor, you had an interesting take while we were waiting on my laptop to restart. How much does this really matter that he's returning?
I don't think it matters. It doesn't move the needle for me whatsoever. Like you said, he hit .299 last year. If this is the major leagues, that's an all-star batting average. But in college baseball, that's an average to some might even say below average batting average. Offense-wise, doesn't move the needle for me. But then again, it's always good to have somebody of his defensive caliber in the middle infield. That's going to be really, really big. But overall, like, if he left, I wouldn't care. If he came back, I also wouldn't care. It just doesn't do anything to the team.
I personally am happy that he is back. Like you said, defensively, great to have him back. Also having a shortstop that hits for a little bit of power, led the team on doubles last year. And the idea is it's not 100%. It's not a video game where every single year players get better and it's a 100% sure thing. He's a junior going into a senior. Of course he's going to be better and he's going to hit better. It's not guaranteed. But the idea with him hitting .299 last year, if you can bump that up 20, 30 points, he's now hitting .320, .330, hitting 20 doubles, slugging about .570. That's the kind of shortstop that is a championship caliber shortstop.
Yeah, I would agree.
So happy to have him back. That's all the baseball coverage we're going to have for the roster. Let's run through the MLB draft and where some Vandy boys were drafted. I don't believe they had any first-round picks this year.
No, sir.
Which is a rarity for Vanderbilt, but let's start from top to bottom. Bryce Cunningham, drafted 53rd overall by the Yankees. Carter Holton, drafted 62nd overall by the Braves. Grayson Carter, drafted 152nd by the Yankees. Andrew DeCanich, drafted 201st by the Cardinals. Davis Diaz, 226th by the A's. Devin Futrell, 297th by the Red Sox. And Alan Espinal, 318th by the Rockies. Not the best draft in Vanderbilt baseball history. Obviously, a down year on the roster. You're expecting a down year in the draft. That's what happened. Pitching was drafted high, but overall, just not a lot of high caliber players that are going to be drafted in the first round. And that's what happens when the roster quality is decreased.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, all out of those guys that got drafted, I think the real loss is going to be, of course, Holton, and Espinal if he decides to. Does he have a year of eligibility left?
I'm not sure.
I think he does. If he does, that would be a big loss just because you need somebody that's that good behind the plate defensively and that can give you offensive production with the bat. More so than anything, I just think he's not a liability behind the backstop. And that's something that's really, really important. Considering he
was a senior last year.
So catcher is going to be something to look for this year. That's going to make me nervous.
And also Bolger was a senior, unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah,
so
who cares
you're gonna have a new face behind the plate, which is kind of a big deal. That's it for baseball. We will probably not talk about baseball a single time until spring? Until the season is about to begin.
Well, hopefully with Byington and this basketball team, we might not talk about it till June.
Hopefully.
Just kidding. Probably about April.
So that is it for baseball. If you want additional baseball coverage, check out Aria Gerson on Twitter. Now, on to football. This is what we're going to be talking about for the next 4 or 5 months. It's going to be 99% football until we start previewing basketball season. So until October, It's going to be all football on TDR.
Football. At Aria_Gerson. Football.
a lot of shit talk on Aria Gerson so far. But we're keeping it, it's been 3 weeks, got to air out some grievances. On to SEC Media Days. I know what it symbolizes. I've got to get this out early, okay? Because otherwise I'm going to forget. I love what SEC Media Days symbolizes. It is truly the start of talking season for football. The beginning where the season is inching closer, kind of the lighting of the torch, kind of like at the Olympics. The games haven't really started. Fall camp hasn't started, but the season is right around the corner. With that said, I truly believe SEC Media Days and people that actually take or put any credence into any of the quotes by any head coach are the dumbest human beings possible. If you actually listen to a coach's statements and say, look, he just told us about this, that's an interesting thing, then you don't know anything about that program. They're not going to tell you anything in SEC Media Days. There hasn't been an interesting thing that has happened in SEC Media Days since Clay Travis asked Tim Tebow if he was saving himself for marriage. That was the last interesting thing that has happened in SEC
I forgot
Media
about
Days.
that.
Goated move by Clay Travis. We have our issues with Outkick, but goated move by Clay Travis.
I totally forgot about that, yeah.
With that said, I wrote down a lot of the questions that Clark Lee was asked. I also wrote down some notes from his initial statement at the main podium. I know, Trevor, you have some notes or you're going off the dome here.
Dude, straight dome.
So you're obviously not going to learn a lot, like I said, from any of these quotes, especially with this Vanderbilt program with a completely new staff, a completely turned over roster. They're not going to give anything away. Everything is going to be very canned, planned answers. But players attending SEC Media Days for Vanderbilt, C.J. Taylor, Gunnar Hansen, and Langston Patterson. So Clark Lee, when he took the main podium, I'm going to be honest, I only watched the first 60, 70% of it because I couldn't stand the questions that were being asked anymore. But basically, Clark Lee's main podium, his opening statements, he gave his condolences to the Kiffin family, blah, 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 about thank you to the administration, thank you for the trust, blah, 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 a bunch of nothing. Then Clark Lee went on to say the next step, success is seldom linear. And then he said that there were two important questions that have to be asked after what happened last season. There were obviously expectations going into last season, coming off a 5-7 season. After in year one, you went 2-10. Year two went 5-7. Obviously, going into that season, there were expectations of competing in postseason play, making a bowl game.
Yeah.
That did not materialize after another 2-10 season. So Clark Lee said there were two important questions. What am I meant to learn from this adversity? And how can we use this as a catalyst for our future success? And he said there were kind of three key answers to those two questions. He said, number one, they changed the way they train. They were not physically closing the gap with their SEC competition in the way they had hoped. I thought that was a good acknowledgement, that they were just not closing the gap. They were, in fact, probably falling further behind SEC opponents. And he said they addressed that this offseason with the hiring of Robert Steiner. And they've already seen the progress that has been created with Steiner. Number two, they changed their tactical systems on offense and defense, hired Tim Beck from New Mexico State. I did not realize it was this high, but last year New Mexico State had the number 14 rushing offense in the country, and they were number 12 in yards per play on offense. So addressed that. He also brought up Jerry Kill and how with Clark Lee moving to the defensive coordinator role, that Jerry Kill had come in with 175 wins under his belt as a head coach to take over and share in some of those head coaching responsibilities with Clark Lee taking over the defense. So that's stuff we already knew. All of this stuff is going to be stuff we already knew. Number three, he said they expedited the transformation of the roster, fully embracing the changes within transfer portal and NIL where they fell behind between year two and year three. And he also specifically said that is why they fell behind, is that they did not adapt to the NIL and transfer portal era, and that's why they had to completely change their approach. So that is something that he just addressed everything we've been talking about.
Yeah.
And he also brought up the actual stats of they have 53 new players on this football roster. basically completely turned over. Half the roster is completely brand new, and that's great to see after a 2-10 season. He also mentioned that this is the first season with a majority of the team being brought in under his head coaching tenure. So a majority of the team is Clark Lee and Barton Simmons recruits. This is the first time 106 of the 120 players have been brought in by Clark Lee and Barton Simmons. So he has his roster, his guys. This is a true make or break season.
Yep.
He went on to say people first, mission always, a bunch of whatever. And then he said short-term strategy of winning football, the reality of our game now. There's no more long-term plans. You have to lay out your plans to win immediately. And that's also something that's just nice to hear, because you have not heard that from Tim Corbin in the baseball program, acknowledging their shortcomings. And maybe that's also because Clark Lee's a little quicker to acknowledge his shortcomings as a first-time head coach that's never been to a bowl game. First, Tim Corbin has won 2 national championships. So probably a little bit less pride there from Clark Lee. The only interesting question that was asked at that initial podium or at main stage or whatever you call it was about his thoughts on Diego Pavia.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any of this written down, but Clark Lee said on Diego Pavia, he brings experience and a competitive edge, and they've already felt his presence in the locker room. It's still a QB competition. But everybody that knows Diego Pavia knows that he is a unique competitor. He exudes edge, and we're really proud to have him in black and gold. He's not going to come out and say it, but how he spoke about Pavia, it makes me think that it's all but as Phoebe's meowing over here.
Oh,
and here she comes.
is.
Phoebe's been adapting to the move as well. She's been a little more cautious, but Clark Lee's not going to come out and say it. He kept
Watch your drink. Sorry,
he kept referencing the QB competition, but I would be shocked if Pavia's not the starter week 1.
It's going to be Diego. It was always Diego Pavia. Diego Pavia yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Diego Pavia forever. Basically everything that you just listed in regards to Clark Lee's opening statement and press conference is really what I want to talk about. Like you said, a lot of the questions were really boring. I thought there were a lot of missed questions. I didn't hear that many questions in regards to how has the transition been from head coach to being the defensive coordinator. I thought that would be a really important question to ask. I don't believe anybody really addressed it. My big takeaway from his SEC Media Days appearance is it felt like a lot of fan service. Do you know what I mean? It felt like he addressed a lot of the complaints that fans have had with his 10 years as Vanderbilt football head coach. And that's something that honestly I really like. I know, especially on Twitter, a lot of people are hit or miss with Clark Lee. Some love him, some hate him, some are kind of but just as a fan of this program, that's really, really, really good to hear, because like you said, I believe you said before, and even as he stated in his remarks, that's a sign that he's willing to adapt to the changing tide of college athletics, which is something that's really promising. And especially if anybody knows about Clark Lee as a head coach, a little inside fastball here. Clark Lee initially was a my way or the highway kind of guy that ran a lot of people off. If you didn't agree with Clark Lee, screw you. It's his program. He's going to run it his way. The way that he has transformed this football program, and these remarks tell me that he realized that wasn't going to work. And so he needed to take a step back, did some reflecting, and said, I need to change my approach to college football in order to make this team better. It's not about Clark Lee first and his way first. It's about how do we win football games now? And he said that in his statement of the short term right now is winning football games. That's all we care about. No more of that. Vanderbilt's going to be a national championship contender one day. No more of that 40, not 4. No, the solution is win football games now. And overall, this isn't a Clark Lee Glaze session, but overall, I really, really enjoyed his remarks, and it seemed like a lot of fan service.
And I was listening to, so I did watch quite a bit of his SEC Media Day stuff. It was just his main podium talks that I was like, Jesus, these questions are so boring. But you could feel that there was less media hype. And I'm not saying there was a ton of media hype going into last season, but there was clearly more buzz around Clark Lee and around the Vanderbilt football program last SEC Media Day than this year.
Mhm.
And I was listening to Billy Derrick and Joey Dwyer on the VandySports.com podcast, and they brought that up, just saying there's clearly an adjustment being made. What do you call it? Because I watched this whole press conference where he was sitting down at a table answering questions. I don't know what you call that. It wasn't when he was at the main podium.
Yeah, was it on radio? It was on Radio Row, I believe.
I don't know exactly where it was, but I wrote down every question he was asked. It's like a 22-minute video on YouTube.
The media pool.
Yeah, the media pool. So I wrote down all those questions and wrote down some of his bits and pieces of his responses. None of this is going to be mind-blowing, so I'm going to run through all those questions and just quickly kind of give a recap of what he said for those that don't want to go through and listen to the whole, spiel that he had. First question he was asked in the media pool was trying to move the program forward, things that you need to get wins. And Clark Lee's first response was play better football. And then he brought up again the change in strength coach. He mentioned specifically last season the run of turnovers that they had in a 3-game stretch. They had 10 turnovers in the 3-game stretch beginning with UNLV. 4 of those were returned for touchdowns. So that was the specific that he brought out. He also mentioned specifically reclaiming the run game and reclaiming the ground. They were 19th in 2022 in time of possession. They were 97th in 2023 in time of possession. He specifically brought that up. And then he said on the defensive side of the ball, eliminating explosive plays and third down performance. The next question he was asked was verbal commitments from high school players. Is it different from 4 to 5 years ago? Clark Lee basically said it hasn't really changed the nature of high school recruiting as much because Vanderbilt's obviously not recruiting the top ESPN 300 guys very consistently. They'll occasionally get a guy like Dante Carter. But overall, I don't know how much NIL has to do with high school recruiting at the 3-star level that they're really, really recruiting from. The next question was, how worried are you about these guys are going to play the video game? I thought that was a really funny question. He was asked about his players playing the new college football 25 video game. And Clark Lee's response was pretty great. I felt a little bit of a looser, more comfortable Clark Lee. He wasn't quite as tight with his answers, a little more showing off his personality. Clark Lee said, if it were me, I'd be playing the game. So they're going to play it. That was his immediate response. And then he said, if they're not ready, we will know. They still need to be ready for workouts, still need to be ready for whatever. And he said, I do want them to enjoy it because I would be. Let's celebrate the return of the game. Let's celebrate what it does for college football. And then he made one funny quote. He said, I still remember back in the day, FB number 29.
Yeah.
And he said going in and updating his speed rating on the sliders to a 99. He said that, and changing the names. He said, you don't have to do that anymore. They might have to go in and update their ratings for what they think they deserve. But I thought that was funny because Clark Lee's probably one of the few head coaches that played in an era when that game was actually active.
Yeah.
Then the dumbest question from the dumbest media base in the entire SEC. Of course, it was a Georgia reporter asked about London Humphreys. Just foot in the mouth. Why would you ask that as the fourth question?
That made me mad.
It infuriated me. I don't even care about what his response was. He gave lip service. London Humphreys is a hell of a player. The next question, your goal was to get to competing for championships. Is this still attainable? How important is this year? Clark Lee said, this is a journey. Our North Star is winning, sustainable winning. As we are not, as we will be, was something that he said. Sounded a lot like Kamala Harris. What's the Kamala Harris quote?
The coconut tree?
No, unburdened by our past or whatever it is.
Geez,
he sounded like Kamala Harris. He said last year was frustrating, disappointing, and painful. And then he said success is a lag effect. And then he was asked, who is the player on offense or defense that no one's talking about but should be? He didn't give any names, didn't say anything, just said, I'm bad at answering this question. There's about 20 guys that I could talk about. And then he was asked a question about the other quarterback. He said, what attracted you to Nate Johnson, and what are the chances this year that he contributes heavily? He said Nate Johnson has a ton of physical gifts, a ton of documented speed, smart, great arm talent, seen him perform on big stages at the highest level. And then he just said it's a QB competition. So expect him and Diego Pavia to go at it. Should be a fun competition. I think it's a lot of lip service. I think Diego Pavia is going to be the guy, and you're going to see Nate Johnson in some packages. I'm not going to run through all these questions because they're kind of boring. He was then asked about Nashville being a strong recruiting tool, then asked about progress in the stadium. And then he was asked, as the final question, a really weird question, in my opinion. Someone asked the stadium, Vanderbilt Stadium, First Bank Stadium. It's an incredibly valuable piece of real estate in Nashville. Was there ever any discussion about moving to an NFL stadium like Pittsburgh did, or move away from campus? I loved Clark Lee's response. He said he couldn't speak to that. He wasn't there when those conversations might have been taking place, but he said specifically he's vehemently opposed to that. There's something special about playing on campus that is sacred to college football. And he was glad that their home is still on Vanderbilt's campus. So glad to hear a representative of the program say that. If you want to talk about the attendance problems or the game day environment, if Vanderbilt moved to playing at Nissan Stadium, then the new stadium that's going to be there, talk about zero game day environment. So thank God that didn't happen, and thank God they did not combine with Nashville SC and play at Geodis Park.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you remembered whenever before even Nashville SC came over, there was a lot of talks about Vanderbilt moving the stadium to the fairgrounds in South Nashville. That might have ended my fandom.
It would have ended mine. If they cared that little, but it didn't happen. So thank God Vanderbilt, for once in the administration's history, did something right. The new renovations are currently making a lot of progress.
They look awesome on the cameras.
The new Jumbotron is in place. Before we go to the TDR cocktail break, I do have one thing that I want to get out on the record. Inevitably, you see the new Jumbotron, new speakers. Clark Lee made a comment about being happy about the scoreboard no longer being suspended by cranes.
I missed that. I thought it was awesome.
As a Vanderbilt fan that has been going to games since I was 5 or 6 years old, at least in my memory bank, I guarantee you with this new Jumbotron, new sound system, game 1 against Virginia Tech, there will be problems.
It's going to go out.
Yeah,
it's going to go out.
I don't know if it's going to be a big blank square in the middle of the Jumbotron. I don't know if it's going to be the sound system is messed up and you can't hear the PA announcer. I don't know if it's going to sound horrible. The
clock stops working.
Yes, there will be clock issues, guaranteed. I've never seen a program with as much funding as Vanderbilt football that cannot figure out a sound system and scoreboard.
Yeah,
it is incredible, the incompetence by the game day operations team. And I will keep putting that out there until they fix it. The sound was horrible last year. I gave them a little bit of benefit because it was in a construction zone, but it has been horrible every year that I've attended. There's a sound issue, there's a scoreboard issue, there's a clock issue. Test it.
Yeah.
There's no reason for that to happen on a game day. You should test it and retest it and retest it and retest it 10 more times before you hit game day. It feels like they're running the test on the day of the game.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. I've seen drunk fraternity guys. I know it's a different scale inside of a stadium. I've seen drunk fraternity guys set up large speaker systems an hour before a party with zero problem, using a microphone, everything. I know it's a different scale, but if they can do it, then a professional team should be able to accomplish getting the sound system set up correctly without issues. That is my challenge to you, Vanderbilt. You might want to plug in your laptop.
Oh yeah, we'll plug it.
It's about to die. But I guarantee there's going to be a problem.
I think in order to fix the game day ops, they should let us control it. And the one thing that I want to control, as I've mentioned on Twitter, is I want to control the foghorn. This is a hill that I'm willing to die on, along with being inducted into the Vanderbilt Fan Council. I want to control the foghorn. I want to be in the Fan Council. I'm still waiting on my email.
I don't think you're going to be admitted to the Fan Council.
Their loss, we would win a national title in 4 years with my suggestions.
As Trevor goes to plug in his laptop, we will be right back after the TDR cocktail break, so grab yourself a cold one. We'll see you in a sec. Welcome back from the TDR cocktail break. Trevor, we only have one thing left to talk about.
The most important thing.
The most important part of this podcast, College Football 25, has been released, at least the early release. So if you bought the deluxe edition, you got it 3 days early. I think the full release is tomorrow.
I believe so, yes.
If you did not order the deluxe edition. So we've got everything you need about College Football 25 here, the Vanderbilt roster, the breakdown of the gameplay. But first, let's talk about this move we had over the weekend. We mentioned our bodies are broken, physically and mentally. We are broken and exhausted. We apologize for the bit of a boring episode here with the completely blank white wall behind us. But we're dead right now. We debated even recording this episode because our brains are absolute mush. Our new place that we have moved into has 3 floors. There's the first floor with a garage and a bedroom, the second floor, which is the main area with the kitchen, living room, and a balcony, and then the third floor where me and Trevor's bedrooms are. So we had to move every single item that we owned up a minimum of 1 flight of stairs. Most of our items, 2 flights of stairs. And then also our old apartment, we had to walk downstairs to move everything into the U-Haul. Trevor actually rented a dolly. We did not have we don't own a dolly, of course. Trevor rented one from U-Haul. We did not use it one time.
Didn't take it out of the U-Haul.
Moved beds, couches, tables, bookcases, dressers, nightstands. Didn't use it one time.
No.
My left knee, left Achilles, left ankle is destroyed right now. I can barely walk up and down the stairs normally. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, all 3 of those days, I walked a minimum of 20,000 steps, almost 13 miles each of those days, and climbed over 140 flights of stairs on each of those days. Me and Trevor basically walked an up the stairs marathon with 40 to 80 pound weights, or a half marathon with 40 to 80 pound weights for 3 straight days.
It was rough.
So we are still recovering.
My ankle is like locking up on me as we speak.
Phoebe is just now leaving Trevor's bedroom, exploring the place for the first time. So we are truly just getting settled in right now. But at least we got the internet working. We got the TVs up. And we have College Football 25 loaded up on your PS5 and my Xbox Series X.
Those were the most important things to get figured out, was the internet, the TV, so we can play NCAA. It's not even NCAA anymore, but I keep calling it NCAA.
We're old heads. We'll call it NCAA.
NCAA 13 was the best NCAA, by the way.
NCAA 13?
Yeah. The one with RG3 on it.
Yeah, that was an incredible one. I still just pay full respect to NCAA 14
for carrying us
for 11 years.
Yeah.
Carrying us through. Denard Robinson on the cover. That game at one time, not too long ago, was going for upwards of $100 on eBay. I still have my Xbox 360. I've lugged that thing around from my freshman year of college until now.
Yeah.
So almost 10 years I've lugged around my Xbox 360 specifically for that game.
Yep.
Had to have an entirely different console, so great to lay you to rest. NCAA 14, thank you for everything.
Rest in power, brother.
RIP in peace. But Trevor, Vanderbilt on the current College Football 25 video game. So they have different ratings for the teams when you're playing Dynasty mode versus when you're playing Play Now or playing online. So all of these ratings I'm going to be discussing are the Play Now, playing online roster. The Dynasty is like an 80 or 81 overall is what they have or start off with. In the normal Play Now default roster, Vanderbilt has a 77 overall, a 71 offense, and a 74 defense. Not very good, to be honest. For comparison, Tennessee is an 85 overall with an 83 offense and 80 defense. How have you enjoyed playing with Vanderbilt so far?
Well, here's the thing. I'm a stick god. I've always been a stick god. I've been playing a lot of online. I haven't booted up my Dynasty yet. Still trying to get used to the new revamped passing, the stick work. I'm I'm an absolute fiend with Nate Johnson on the ground. Nobody can stop me. The Nate Johnson RPO and the Nate Johnson option, quite frankly, are undefeated. So if anybody wants that work, my gamer tag is the same as my Twitter handle. I'll beat you by 40. I use your Dante Carter because everybody knows the real ones always use their safety. If you use your defensive lineman, then I know you're new to this, not true to this.
I'm a middle linebacker guy.
A good in between. But everybody knows that the real players use the safety. I think I'm averaging like 5 user picks a game. So if you want that work, come get me.
Trevor's also playing some trash guys online. That PS5 people know ain't shit.
Nah, dude, it ain't 2008 no more, brother. Everybody's on PS5.
I play on Xbox. If anybody has an Xbox out there, my gamer tag is still the same as it was when I was in 7th grade. MJ Bear 32.
Nice.
So add me on there. Let's go through the Vanderbilt roster, and then we can discuss some different aspects of the gameplay and everything. Vanderbilt only has 3 players with an 80 overall or better. Obviously, to be expected, the best player on Vanderbilt's roster is C.J. Taylor, strong safety with an 88 overall. Langston Patterson at number 2 with an 81. Junior Sherrill with an 80 overall. Randon Fontenette with a 79 overall. Quarterbacks. Diego Pavia, not in the game.
No, he's a generic white guy.
As of right now, Nate Johnson is the highest overall quarterback on the roster with a 77 overall. But Nate Johnson's speed, a 95 on the game. So everyone knows it's been Madden, whatever it is, a quarterback with speed is the most coveted thing in the game.
Yep.
And Vanderbilt actually has that.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Yeah, I think Diego Pavia's like generic name is like Dylan Carter or something like that.
Yeah, but he's also number 4, which is not even Pavia's number.
No, he's number 2, right?
Yeah, I think they just stuck in a placeholder.
Yeah.
I think they'll do a roster update with some of these summer enrollees.
There's a couple of placeholders on the Vanderbilt. Like DeRicky Wright isn't on there. There is a number 43, but not DeRicky Wright. Dude, shout out to my boy Duncan McDonald on the offensive line. Get that man in the game. Who else? Hutch Baird isn't in the game.
I don't know.
He's definitely not.
Going to running backs while you think on this. Who's not in the game? Cedric Alexander, starting running back, 78 overall. Going to wide receivers, obviously Junior Sherrill's an 80. Quincy Skinner Jr. is 78. And then Micah Bell is the third receiver with a 73 overall. 97 speed for Micah Bell. He is death on the jet sweeps. Or the most overpowered play in the game, the RPO bubble. So run that with Micah Bell, and you will score a lot of touchdowns. I'm not going to run through this entire roster. Stowers, 75 overall at tight end. The one thing I do want to point out, for everybody that's going to play out there, if you're listening to this, you're probably going to start a dynasty with Vanderbilt. I've played a full season of Dynasty. I just finished up the season during my lunch break today. Beat Tennessee. Ended my first season as the head coach of the Vanderbilt Commodores on Heisman, 7-5. Beat Tennessee to end the season on a last-second touchdown pass to Junior Sherrill. One thing I want to point out, the Vanderbilt offensive line on this game is horrific. Absolutely horrible. If you run 5 wide, there's going to be 6 or 7 times during the game that you're going to have less than 1 second to throw the football.
Mm-hmm.
The offensive line is worse than I even imagined it would be in this video game.
Yeah.
Also, the defense is not great, but Dante Carter is a dog.
Yep.
C.J. Taylor is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Martell Height is actually really good in the game as well.
Randon Fontenette's really good.
Brandon Fontenette is. So I've played 1 season of it. I just have to put it out there. I just finished up the season. I got the news of who was transferring out. You have the option to persuade guys at the end of the season. I have a lot of guys transferring. Langston Patterson transferring out of the program. Martell Height transferring out of the program. Dante Carter transferring out of the program. Cameron Johnson transferring out of the program. Cedric Alexander transferring out of the program. We have some retention issues within the Byrum administration.
They don't like how you run the team, dude. They don't like how you run the team, man.
I guess so. But overall, on a scale of 1 to 10, Trevor, where would you rate this game so far?
10. It's the greatest video game of all time. I'm not playing. I think this legitimately might be the greatest video game of all time.
I want to give it a 10. It's incredible, nostalgic. It's everything you hoped it to be. So take this with what I'm saying. I love it. I'm addicted to it already. I'm going to give it a 7.5.
Terrible rating.
There are some
Terrible.
clunky things with the gameplay. There's some incorrect things with how the blocking schemes are up front. There's some oddities with how the guys drop the ball once they get out of bounds. There's some weird stuff with pass coverage where zones are basically useless on defense. You might as well not even play zone coverage. Maybe that's because I'm playing on Heisman. As a person that used to be very into Madden, there are a few little issues that I have with the game. But overall, 7.5 or 8 out of 10. Road to Glory sucks. I'm not going to lie to you guys.
I've heard some rough things about RTG.
You can clearly see that the EA team poured everything into Dynasty. And then they added in Ultimate Team, which was a completely new game mode. I haven't even played it.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it's like. If you boot up Ultimate Team within the first week of
You're
owning
a
college
fraud.
football, you're a fraud. Yeah. If you boot up Ultimate Team, I'm sure that their attention was taken away from Road to Glory with Ultimate Team. I think that was a huge mistake because Road to Glory, you don't start in high school. You just pick a starting point. I started as a running back in the underdog setting, and I attended Army my first year. I did every simulated practice, got gold on everything. I am at Army. I saw 2 plays my entire freshman season.
Salute the troops, dude.
And I transferred to James Madison. But I'm a 5'5", 400-pound running back. But
That might be why.
overall, Dynasty is everything you would hope it would be. Recruiting is way better than it was on NCAA 14. You actually can't just spam max points into the top recruits and get them on your roster. It's a nice in between. They've obviously improved some things. I think there will be a pretty massive update that will happen after the first 2 or 3 weeks. Overall, an incredible game.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt fans out there, if you have not played it yet, get ready because your wife, your kids, your social lives, your work, it's all going to go downhill.
Yeah.
You're going to sacrifice all that and you're going to love it the entire time.
Yeah.
So, before we close out episode 274, are we going to stream on Twitch, us running the Vanderbilt Commodores football program?
I believe so. I mean, we have all the equipment. We got a mic. We've got a camera. We have your Xbox.
Trevor has been acquiring all the equipment we need. I'm not sure when that is going to start, but we are going to be streaming. Me as the offensive coordinator, Will Byrum OC, head coach / defensive coordinator, Hack Squat Jim Duggan will be leading the program.
We're going to lead the nation in forced turnovers.
You say that now. What difficulty are we going to play on?
I play on Heisman.
You said you played on All-American, you fraud.
Sorry, All-American. My bad. I'm sorry, All-American.
I play on Heisman.
Yeah.
That's going to be a nice changeover on offense going from Heisman to going to All-American. But Trevor, whenever we start that, it should be a fun time. Apparently, you found this out. Twitter / X does not support live streaming video games yet.
No.
Okay. So we will be streaming on Twitch, and we'll put that link out on Twitter. That should be a fun time. We will be utilizing everybody's interaction that ends up watching to kind of shape our play calling, shape our recruiting strategy, and it should be pretty fun. We might, dude, maybe we should do, maybe we should just allow the computer and simulate recruit. No, we're going to recruit. We're going to build this program from the ground up.
I'm a recruiter.
I actually am a, what did you call it? That's you get to choose like 3 different coaching archetypes.
Tactician is one.
Recruiter. I'm a recruiter.
See, I'm a tactician.
Okay,
dude.
you're
I'm
a tactician. But College Football 25, incredible, bringing this nation together when we needed it most. Anything else you want to add on episode 274?
I will say, if you do the online Road to the College Football Playoff game and you play with Alabama, you're a loser. You're literally a loser. I only go into online matches playing with Vanderbilt, and I'm piecing these kids up with tier 1 schools. If you play with Alabama or you play with Colorado, you're literally a freaking loser.
No, I actually love when I see somebody playing with Colorado because I know they're going to be complete trash.
Yeah.
I've actually not won any games on that except when I played people that played with Colorado. because anybody that plays with Colorado is an absolute fraud and sucks at the game.
Some kid, who did he play with? Oregon. This kid played with Oregon, and I go, oh my God, I'm about to have Dylan Gabriel in a torture chamber. And it was a bloodbath. I think I beat him 21-0.
21. The first game I played on there probably boosted me up too much to start. I beat Colorado 24-0. The first game I played. Haven't won a game since. But then I was playing dudes that were like North Carolina State, and I was like, oh no, these are real ballers.
Whenever you see somebody that's using a non-tier 1 team like a tier 2 or a tier 3, you're like, this guy.
If you
he grew up on this game.
If you see somebody loading up like Virginia Tech or Duke or Stanford, you're screwed.
Yeah,
they're gonna beat the hell out of you.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add on episode 274?
No, I'm gonna go do some homework and then hopefully I have time to play NCAA after.
Yep, I'm gonna edit this episode and then I'm gonna be playing NCAA until I go to sleep. But that probably won't be too long because it's already pretty late. So for myself, Will Byrum, and my co-host Trevor Hulan, this has been episode 274 of The Door Report, powered by 615 Collectibles.